Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and you are checking out my September sun sign horoscopes. So this horoscope is for Virgos out there. I'm going to start by just giving you a little update. These are the first sun sign horoscope videos that I've ever done. I write monthly for astrograph.com, but I decided recently to make video blog versions of these for my YouTube channel, since it's something I've been working to grow and expand this year. So with that being said, let me show you Astrograph and what I'm up to there. So here's astrograph.com. This is where you can find monthly horoscopes that I write. You can click on, for example, Virgos, just click on the glyph for Virgo on the horoscopes tab. And when you do that, you'll find all the content for September. Now, these are for August that are posted now, but September's will be posted shortly. Just recording this at the end of the month here. So the other thing to check out here is the awesome software that Astrograph sells. So I write as a guest columnist for Astrograph, but they also have time passages software that I use personally and that I'm trying to promote in these monthly videos, because I think it's really great software. It was the first software I ever used. I used it for a really long time. I still have it, still use it. I also use SolarFire, but this is more cost-friendly, budget-friendly, and you can get it for the phone. You can get different basic, standard, advanced, or complete editions. There's different cool add-ons, etc. So check it out if you are looking for a way of learning how to cast charts on your own computer. It's a really nice, super user-friendly program. So with that being said, let's switch over and take a look at your horoscope for September. All right, so it's a pretty big month for Virgos, considering that you have a big new moon in your sign this month, which we'll be talking about. But the month gets started really around September 3rd. That's the first sort of big transit of the month. It's a simple little transit between Mercury and Venus. Right here, you can see it. Mercury is your ruling planet as a Virgo and is in the 12th house in Leo to start the month, making a sextile to Venus in Libra in the second house. First of all, this is a great transit in terms of trying to come to agreements with people, or to make a deal, or to find compromise, negotiation, and ease in communication with other people. It's a time where Mercury in the 12th house, could potentially make some impulsive decisions, some self-destructive decisions, to what 12th house Mercury is known to not think totally. You may not be thinking so clearly. Mercury making a sextile to Venus in the second house, it would be maybe not thinking so clearly about purchases or money or finances, or possibly receiving some kind of insight and doing some personal growth work around money or finances. You may also be dealing with certain elements of hiddenness or secrecy in relationships and communication in relationships, or you may be finding that there is some ability to communicate about things that are less tangible, or that are a little bit more unconscious or deeper and more vulnerable, and you may be able to do so with some ease. You want to be careful of sort of going over the top or extravagance in speech or mentally, or in terms of indulging some level of desire or spending too much or something like that. But otherwise, it's a nice little transit that is pretty harmonious. Sometimes people will receive good news, or come to agreements with other people pretty easily, or find compromise more naturally. So a nice little transit to start the month. Then on September 8th, you're going to see Venus in Libra in your second house, again, a house of money and finances, squaring Mars in the fifth house. This one has a little bit of sexual tension written on it. You can feel the sexual tension in the air sometimes. It's so tangible with Venus-Mars squares. Between your second and fifth house, these were two houses that were traditionally related to desire, to material desire, like what you want to have, what you want to possess, food. but it's also related to money and clothing and things that you buy. So it's kind of, second house has a lot to do with the material world, financial matters. And then the fifth house was the house of pleasure. It's the house of joy. It was called the joy of Venus, and it was called the house of good fortune, related to things like sports, creativity, recreation, joy. Even there's some sexuality and romance kind of talked about with the fifth house sometimes, children and pregnancy. So a little bit of sexual tension in the air with Venus and Mars, the classic masculine and feminine planets. Um, so yeah, you could think about also sometimes expenses related to children if you have them, or you might think about issues around money and joy or pleasure, maybe some sense of wanting to indulge or spend a lot, or maybe issues being addressed in terms of how you indulge yourself and kind of maybe reassessing some of your values. It's a good time to have fun, to be creative. It's got creative sexual tension kind of transit. But between house 2 and 5, you do want to be careful of sort of like, sort of a sort of reckless hedonistic vibe, or just going over the top with something, or making a decision that's based in the lust of the moment that's maybe will have unintended consequences later. All right, so those are some things to think about there. Here's the big one, though, for you, which is on September 9th. On that day, there's a new moon in your home sign of Virgo. Big month ahead for you, and opposite Neptune in the 7th house. This is all about you and your need to individuate right now, or to become more of your authentic self, to check in with what you need and what you're doing, to, in a sense, put yourself first. But then you have Neptune pulling in the opposite direction in the house of relationships and love, which may be about compromise or surrender, or losing yourself in somebody. Be careful of that. Boundaries in relationships, romance, and the allure of some, glamorous person or some romantic temptation. But the balances between self and other is very important for the next month ahead, with this lunar cycle starting off and being toned by an opposition between the house of self and the house of other, or relationships. And with Neptune in the mix again, there's a certain level in which we always want to and have to surrender to the other to really experience love and intimacy. We have to sort of hurl ourselves into the mystery and the sort of ineffable, mysterious qualities of romance that are uncertain. But then on the other hand, the emphasis on the first house is make sure you're taking care of yourself, keeping strong boundaries, really checking in and making sure that you're doing what you need to do for you right now as well. So those are some things coming up around the new moon. It's a big one for you. Then you go forward, and you're going to September 12th next. And on September 12th, Venus in your 3rd house is going to oppose Uranus in your 9th house. Now, these two houses are classically related to things like the mind, communication, learning, intelligence, spirituality and religion, colleges and universities or schools, academic programs, travel, short travel, long travel. So Venus entering your 3rd and opposing Uranus in the 9th, first and foremost, could just indicate that there are disruptions, changes, and a certain kind of rebelliousness in the air regarding your beliefs, your ideas, how you communicate or express your beliefs or thoughts. Communication can be a little bit more erratic, eccentric, different, original. You also have to remember that Venus is the planet of love and relationships and sexuality. And so Venus opposite Uranus is also about defying traditional values in relationships, sexuality, love, friendships. So there may be some theme or quality of kind of stepping outside of the box and going outside of the norm right now in relationships and sexuality in general, or with Venus and things like, doing something that's original or sort of eccentric artistically, or in terms of a new style or even wardrobe choice that you're making. I mean, it could be like as mundane as that. But then with third house and ninth house emphasized, you're also thinking this could be quite philosophical, quite spiritual, could involve the topics of school or learning, or could also involve travel somehow. So the interesting combination of topics that are at work at this time. Not much longer after that, on September 18th, you're going to see the planet Mars in the sign of Aquarius, making a square to Uranus in Taurus in your ninth house. This one has the sixth house Mars is more about the sixth house was traditionally called mala fortuna, or bad fortune, and it had to do with hard work. And it also had to do with, it was called the joy of Mars. It was related to military training, to sickness, to surgery, to surgeons, to nurses, people who were sort of in the trenches of life, trying to offer service to those who were sick or suffering. But it also is a house that's known for very hard work, just like, potentially sort of backbreaking labor. It also has, again, this nobler sense of trying to fight injustice. So with Mars in that house square to rebellious Uranus, inventive and original Uranus in the ninth house of higher education, spirituality, foreign countries, long journeys, you're basically thinking, okay, this is a transit that could provoke me to get involved, serving something, fighting for something, because of a more active and assertive political or philosophical belief, or trying to put my spirituality into action in the world. There's an invitation to be bold and daring during this time, or to be defiant and original. There's an emphasis on individuality and standing up for something. But there's also potentially some kind of rebelliousness that could be harmful right now, even a tendency maybe to be accident prone because of being too headstrong or too defiant. So those are some of the things to think about right now with Mars square Uranus on September 18th. All right, so going forward from there, on September 22nd to 23rd, the sun is going to enter Libra, and that's the fall equinox. Fall equinox sets the tone for the entire autumn season, and it's taking place in your second house of finances. Whether this has to do with employment or money, there will be an emphasis on finances for the autumn season, but certainly at least for the next 30 days as the sun is in your second house. Now, in addition to this, the second house also has to do with material values, material possessions. So it might be a time to reflect upon and ask yourself, are things in balance in my life with regard to what I consume, what I have, what I want, what I desire? Do I really need the things that I need? Bringing some level of wisdom and balance to the material, sort of basically the quintessential material house of the chart, is indicated here. The probably general advice is to, it can be a good time for finances. It can also be a reflective time for not only finances, but material values in general. And then finally, on September 24th, you're going to see, turn this around a little bit so I can, here we go. And here we go. So September 24th into the 25th, there's going to be a full moon in your 8th house, and it's opposing the sun and Mercury in your 2nd house, creating a T-square to Saturn in Capricorn in your 5th house. So this one also has the feeling of finances and material values written all over it. The full moon in the 8th house is in the house of other people's money or resources, which could mean that a partner's money or a partner's resources or values, materially speaking, are coming into conflict with your own, opposing the sun and Mercury, your home planet, your ruling planet, in the 2nd house of your money, your finances, your values and resources. So there might be some tension regarding responsibilities, duties, money, job, work in your relationship or between yourself and a partner right now. You could also see that with Saturn T-squaring in the fifth, that there is questions about, just basic questions like, are you having enough fun right now? Is there such a demand to work or to pay off debt or to make money, or is there such an emphasis on how values are, your values versus somebody else's values being in conflict right now? But Saturn in the fifth T-squaring is kind of like, in some ways it's the picture of someone who may be getting a little stuck and maybe needs to have more fun or be a little bit more spontaneous. So you do want to be careful about that. On the other hand, are you looking for deeper commitments in your life right now? Saturn usually reflects a time, especially when Saturn is the focal point of a T-square. Saturn wants us to be more committed. What are we committed to? And is there some need to refine or deepen your commitments right now? And maybe that shows up somehow in terms of money and prioritization of finances or budget or time or energy. And that could also bring up issues within your relationships. The other thing that this full moon could indicate is that there is some need to have a transformation of values. And maybe some need to back off from something that you've been overdoing. Saturn in the mix could also be saying, okay, we need a little bit more restraint. So that's another possibility. Those are some good patterns and themes to think about for the full moon on September 25th. So that's what I've got for you this month. I'd like to close by just pointing you to my website. If you want to check out what I'm up to, go to nightlightastrology.com. You can check out my upcoming certification courses. Next one begins on Saturdays in November. And then we've got a nice upcoming fall speaker series you can check out under the upcoming events tab. Check out the readings if you want to book a reading and get together over Skype sometime. I'd love to meet some of you and read your chart. So we will stay tuned for October's horoscope in the meantime, and you can check out my YouTube channel for other regular updates on the day-to-day, week-by-week astrology. All right, take care. Bye.